Okay, now we go into details about washer disinfector processes, but not using chemical indicators, but this time with using data loggers. The use of data loggers is actually acceptable, and we call it a thermometric or parametric method of measurements. And these are guided very much accordingly by the ISO 15883, which is explaining in detail the procedures on routine control and validation of washer disinfector processes. EN norm or 15883 um, in a brief presentation um, in parts is presented here, and I will not read each of one, but these are all like very specific on different kind of test, like for thermal disinfection for surgical instruments and other equipment, utensils, glassware, and there's also specifics about disinfection for human waste containers, and a part that explains very specifically on chemical disinfection for thermolabile endoscopes. Let me stop here. Thermolabile, it's not a wrong English. Thermolabile means a substance readily destroyed or deactivated by heat. So this is a very specific adjective that is presented in the 15883-4 um, because it is important for one to know that thermolabile is not actually the most referring to the most heat resistant microorganisms. So these are easily destroyed or deactivated by heat. And that's the reason why we don't um, supply or expose those products in very high temperatures in the washer disinfectors. And there's part 5, 6, and 7. And anyway, you will have a copy of this. But this is a very good guideline or standard that you can refer to when you talk to your customers. So this guideline applies for the validation and the repeated performance evaluation or routine monitoring of conditioning processes with thermal disinfection in washer disinfectors. So it relates to washer disinfectors only. So these are very important technical requirements. Thank you, Ebro, Germany, for this information that I like very much. The washer disinfector device, which is number 1. Um, Actually, this is the most important requirement for me, which is referring to the cleaning programs and disinfection programs and the rinsing water circulation. Second is more academic because this is purely guided by your SOPs in the CSSD, the loading configurations, and third, the equipment and the utilities. Equipment and utilities is very important because it has got all the important ingredient to complete a successful washer disinfection process. And number 4, the process chemicals, um, detergents, disinfectants, and other compounds. And this is why it is very important for our routine control and validation to use conductivity meters. Then instrument design, and lastly the load carrier, which is referring to the mechanical parts of the washer disinfectors. Moving forward, now we talk about validation of the thermal process in washer disinfector and how they are supposed to be performed properly. And these will help you, these questions will help you um, with implementing a good procedure. And number one, you have to ask, how does the temperature curve evolve during the cleaning step? And then you need the data loggers with temperature sensors. Second, what is the final temperature that is reached and how long is this temperature held? So now you need a temperature sensor with a recorder and an accurate time. Third, what system relates to pressure that's occurred during the separate phases? Um, there's only Ebro where I've seen a logger with a good connector for hoses, and this is making the measurements for pressure very accurate. Um, Fourth, which temperature do the instrument reach? And fifth, how long is the maximum value held? And then you will be aided by the use of our software up to number 6 and what is the resulting AO value. We will be talking about AO value a little bit in the succeeding slides, but AO value is actually referring to the disinfection value unique to washer disinfector processes. So we go to essentials for validation. Now we need pressure um, measurements for pressure changes, its behavior during the process. We need pH value during rinsing. It is important but optional. We need specific conductance in fluent water, specific conductance / rinsing water, and temperatures during the disinfection. Um, I inserted this slide because IQ, OQ, and PQ will actually guide you with your criteria on dealing with the results that you will get from this. All right? I will not be discussing more about IQ, OQ, PQ, but just to inform you that IQ, OQ, PQ explains, verifies, and validates that all functionalities, all process steps in your flow and in your instruments are according to their own predetermined specifications. So this will remain as our guide for as long as the CSSD process flow um, is not changed or altered. Then we go to control and monitoring of the water volume, the dosage, the pH values, the temperature during cleaning and thermal disinfections, and the controls for pressure, perfusion, quality of water, and the specific conductance by the end of the last rinsing. And you can see the picture here um, that Ivan actually used a conductivity meter with a probe, and that actually um, made us decide to open up the washer disinfector just to introduce the cable probe from outside the washer disinfector to inside and positioning the sensor um, near the drain of the washer disinfector. And I must remind you that this was resolved and we have a solution with a wireless conductivity logger. The formula for the A value calculation is shown here. Um, I will not be talking about the formula, but any one of you who are interested about calculating disinfection values manually, I will be very, very happy um, to discuss this with you. So if you want to know how to um, do some calculations manually, let me know. You can send me an email or call me. But just very briefly, I'll explain to you that this disinfection value is actually your target. In order for you to get an indication whether your washer disinfection process is successful or not successful, or fail or pass. So these are references of um, what is the acceptable disinfection values for bedpan washer disinfectors, for non-critical medical products, and for critical medical products, and according to ISO 15883. Um, the reason why I'm presenting this is your customers in the CSST um, will really appreciate the software, um, because our software, the Med or the WinLog validation, can automatically calculate for the disinfection values, just basing everything on the data acquisition process using the loggers. Now we go to validation of processes with thermal disinfection. There are some um, procedures that we have to note before implementation. Um, the positioning of the temperature sensors. When you look at the positioning of the temperature sensors and look at 1, 2, 3, and 4, and you look at the catalog with our um, force logger with 4 sensors with flexible cables, this is going to solve this procedure with a lot of convenience and accuracy. Um, uh, Rather than using thermocouple wires, which is now impossible in most high-tech washer disinfectors, I think the use of data loggers, wireless data loggers, has become um, highly in demand. So these processes is recommended to check with a minimum of 2 cycles, um, involving 6 measuring points and 3 cycles with 4 measuring points for each loading category. Rinsing of all process chemicals, verification by Siemens measurement or conductivity measurement. We all know about conductivity, but just to explain a little bit about conductivity. Um, it is a measure, just a review. I hope I'm correct, but I think it is a measure of the water's capability to pass electrical flow, and this is directly proportional to the concentration of ions in the water. So these are compounds that dissolve into ions known as electrons, or sorry, as electrolytes. So therefore, the more ions that are present, the higher the conductivity of water. So, and that is the reason why it is important to measure the conductivity or specific conductance in the last rinsing, because when we are washing, we are using detergents and chemicals. Um, and in order for us to get an indication um, that the rinsing is proper and completed, is by measuring the conductivity of the water. pH measurement. Um, we all know pH measurement, but it would be nice to use temperature compensated loggers, pH loggers, that were adjusted with buffer solutions. We have a solution for that as well. We also have alternative pH loggers that are available from the Salem Analytics brands. Alternatively, you can use temperature compensated pH measuring devices. Um, the neutralization in the first rinsing and the pH value in the last rinsing can also be measured, but the better result you will measure with the conductivity data logger. Now we go to validation report of washer disinfector processes. Um, Unfortunately, I will not be showing you the software this time because of some time constraints, but try to play with your WinLog Med or WinLog validation software packages, um, and you can see the process by simply um, looking into some data that are available to you from Ebro, Germany, and you can see just by a push of a button, a push of a key, um, these reports will automatically be generated. We have all the solutions for all that we have talked about in the succeeding slides. Um, we have the most suitable data loggers for this application, for the washer and disinfection, and also for sterilization. Um, and actually, the most practical configuration. Instead of buying four loggers for one measuring point to be placed and fixed in their correct locations, Ebro can provide you with only one logger, but with long, um, flexible PT1000 sensors, such as this picture on your right. And we also have, as an option, the mini loggers, the EBI11. The conductivity logger, which is very important for washer disinfection processes. Um, it is a good trend that we started with Ebro, and I think it is being copied now by some of the competition, but we are faring very well. We have the pressure sensors with temperature sensors and the Bowie and Dig test um, logger. So this is a good alternative for your chemical indicators, for your Bowie and Dig procedures for autoclaves. And it is certified according to ISO 11140-4 by an independent laboratory. So the Bowie and Dig test logger, the EBI16, is simulating not only the towel pack test in the autoclaves, but also the heat penetration test and the temperature measurement inside the chamber, and also the pressure measurements as converted into theoretical steam temperatures. So it's like a 3-in-1 or 4-in-1 data logger. Then I have mentioned there's some softwares that are very important for all those that we have talked about, um, the WinLog validation and the WinLog Med.